Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Beyond the 90. Welcome to the channel once again. We're back. Sorry about the long wait. I've had COVID, so that's just wiped everything off the table. But I managed to trust me. There's some good things coming for the channel from here on onwards. Anyway, lots of funny, very special guests with you. Obviously, Alex and Anna as per usual, but Austin as well. I'm surrounded by A's, I realise at the moment. But yeah, how are you guys doing? And first of all, Austin, how's things been for you?
They're going well. Just trying to get back to the club season. I've been missing it so much, especially with all the Euros. Just ready for the season to start.
Yeah, I know what you mean. Right, let's just, again, I totally agree. And we'll just get straight into it. Over to you first, Alex. I mean, one of the transfer rumours that we've got in the title you've seen away, Kabak. I mean, it's a rumour that died down earlier in the season. Now it's picked up again. It looks like there's some real steam to it now. What are your initial thoughts on it?
I'm 50-50 on it. Like, he is young, but at the same time, he'd be perfect for Leicester City. Also, depending on the price tag, I think that's also key. You know, if you can get him in the range of what has been discussed, you know, around that £8 million range, I would even say up to about 12 million. I'd be pretty happy with it. I think ultimately it will come down to for contract time and for the contract, you know, revolving around playing time. I think he's going to be wanting to play, you know, top quality minutes, but you know, I don't know what's going to happen, you know, especially he's not going to be, you know, getting above Fofana, Soyuncu, or Evans. So, you know, it'll be a 50-50 shot. I am going to remain optimistic, but I'm kind of leaning towards the more unlikely. I feel like there's just something that's holding this whole transaction back, which I ultimately think that it's not going to happen.
Yeah, I'm not sure. Again, I'm kind of in the same position as you, but over to you, Austin. Kind of same question to you. And what we're seeing, and obviously he's been in the Premier League this season, and from what Alex was saying, they Liverpool had an £8 million. They were offered £8 million to buy him. They said no. Schalke are looking to sell him and get him off the wages as well. So, do you think he could fit in? Because bearing in mind, it's a weird position to be in because we do need another centre back. Let's be real. We've got four with Martin being the fourth one, but it's just a strange position. Do you think we were going to get him, or would you like him at the squad?
I mean, for the price that they're talking about, I'm with Alex. I mean, I think it's a great price to get a young guy. He's only 21. I mean, he struggled a little bit, but you got to think he came into the middle of the season. He got thrown into the deep end. He didn't always have the same center back partnership. So I think he's going to fit in. I mean, from what I read, Liverpool is saying no because they have to fit their homegrown player. They still need one more homegrown player to meet that criteria. So that seems to be the reason they're saying no. So, I mean, I think he'd fit in the squad. Obviously, him and Soyuncu have games that they play together. So I think he's a good player for us to get for a good price.
Yeah, he definitely is an interesting one. I know that I agree with you to a certain extent. Actually, that's a good one. Don't write off Benkovic. I think that's written off, to be honest. I think the club have even written him off. And that Benkovic is pretty much, are you going to go out on loan? And if not, when?
I think it's just to cut your losses with Benkovic, try and get any resale value you can. But with Kabak, I think he's a good centre-back and a good option, but I think he's the wrong centre-back for us. Because as I've mentioned so much, I'd rather, I know the value is very good and it's very much a sort of profile of signing that Leicester would make, a young player that can develop on and really go on to that next level. But a centre-back, Johnny Evans is not getting any younger. I almost think we need to put in that extra sort of 5-10 million. There's someone, sorry, got a bit of an echo with me, but we need to put in that extra 5-10 million to get James Tarkowski, because I think James Tarkowski is exactly what we need as that centre back, someone who's going to come in and push Soyuncu and Evans for that starting spot, not someone like Kabak who's inexperienced when we've got that in Fofana. Soyuncu's starting to get more experience. He's the leader of the back line of Turkey, but we've seen how that goes. But it just seems like he's a good centre back, but the wrong centre back for us.
I don't. Yeah, you see, the more I look at him, the more people are going, okay, it could be a good player. I mean, he was, as you were saying, thrown into the deep end, but at the same time, I think that we've just got to kind of hang on to that one. But I think it could come good but Liverpool, he was just expected to perform with this massive centre back person, and he just didn't. And that's cool, but you're going to get thrown into the deep end. But I know it's more of strength and depth. You're probably going to say something, Alex, but for a fourth keeper, for fourth central defender, we do need somebody in that spot, especially if we're going to be playing in Europe, and especially if we looked at it with the likes of wing backs, we're going to have to play 3 centre backs. When you've only got 4, I mean, we are looking light in that position. So the club maybe will look to address that in that position.
My biggest concern, I think, right now is that, and I'm going to give Kabak, a little bit of leniency. He's coming to the Premier League. He doesn't speak English. There's a huge change right there. And it's in the middle, like I said, middle of the season. That's huge for him. But I think what Ant said was perfect. He's 21. He's young. I think we need a more veteran presence in that back. I'm still optimistic about Tokarski. I really am, because when you look at it, Leicester have been looking at him for the last couple of seasons. Tokarski's made mention that he's been interested in coming to Leicester. It's kind of it's kind of been written in the stars, it seems like, for a while, and especially with Tokarski in his final year of his contract. If Burnley don't want to play ball, come the January transfer window, technically speaking, Leicester can go in there and just sign him on a free for the summer. Burnley are going to be in this position moving forward where they're going to be like, do we want to get something back for Tokarski, or do we want to see him walk next summer? And I think ultimately, if nothing happens with Kabak, I think that's what will happen later on in this transfer window. And I think that you can possibly see Tokarski come in one of those last-minute signings.
It could be. Austin, what do you think, mate? Because obviously we've Ant's got a whole channel dedicated to Tarkowski pretty much at the moment. But what do you think about? Could he be somebody that we could get in?
I think I'm with Alex in that we should wait for him till the summer. Get him on a free. I mean, obviously there's that chance that he'll get sold in the winter or in the late summer this year. But I mean, obviously Evans is 32, I believe now. He's going to go on 33, and you bring in Tarkowski right after him. I mean, that's just a perfect, almost like for like fit, almost in a sense. So I don't think we go after him this year. I'm on the Kabak train, at least for this year, and then we can wait till the summer and get him on a free.
Yeah, I see what you mean. And another thing to remember as well, we could always get him in January. I mean, the fact that he's going to be 6 months left on his contract, he'll pretty much go for even cheaper than he is now. Maybe that's what they're holding out for. But again, it's a risky strategy with Burnley. We know they've not cash-rich club that they can afford to hold on to him. And he is going to, I think, as we mentioned on Ant's channel before, he's going to want to look to get into the England squad about that. And he's going to have more of a chance at England. I hate to say that because we've had the same thing said to Maguire and all these other players that we've had as well. Anyway, we will move on to the next one. Sorry, Ant, you saying?
I was to say, the one thing that I would say with Tarkowski is, or whoever it may be, we can't afford to wait until January. Because if we say, like a hypothetical, but Fofana gets a long-term injury very early on in the season, which is like, well, maybe not Fofana, but any of our centre-backs, starting centre-backs, then the drop-off to Daniel Amati, as much as I think he's absolutely hilarious and stuff, he's not, like, the quality of footballer of him is not good enough to be expected to start week in, week out. So I'd rather get Kabak than no one, but at the same time, I don't think Kabak's the solution of being able to bring in that experienced player. As I keep saying, I think he's a good player, but I don't think he's the right player for us.
Yeah, do you know, I was just looking at his statistics as well just earlier, and they aren't actually too bad, all things considered. However, there's a reason why he's, for example, Demiral and for Turkey, Demiral and Söyüncü was told to be that support, and they didn't really, defensively, they weren't great. And I think it will just take time, but we can be that player that can. I think we can get the best out of him, but it's just eventually. But is it worth the risk? I mean, we'll probably get on to somebody later on who's coming back to the Premier League, who used to play for Leicester as well. So we'll hands on to that. Yeah, sorry, mate.
I'm going to keep going on about this, but the thing is, with the centre-back, with the fourth choice centre-back, when we've already got so many young centre-backs, do we have time to develop another centre-back? And for the extra, 10 million that it's going to cost to get James Tarkowski, I think it's almost worth getting that ready-made, proven player than a player who may turn out to be a superstar in the future compared to like a rock-solid centre-back when you know what you're getting. It's not as if, as well, we don't have two very capable young centre-backs as it is. I would say if we already had like the veterans at the club in terms, like, obviously we've got Johnny Evans, but like we can't. My thing is, we've seen when Johnny Evans dropped out and we have very little experience in the back line, how different our defence looked. And my fear is, if we play a back three of Kabak, Fofana and Söyüncü, like on paper, that's three very good centre-backs, but where's your leadership in that? Who's going to be like the commander at the backs? It's like, I think the leadership in the defence is one of the most underrated things, and that's what worries me. But if we do sign Kabak,
I see. So I get what you mean, Alex. I think you were going to say something as well on that.
Ultimately, my biggest concern is Johnny Evans and his health. I think that's ultimately where this comes down to, because we saw him get injured at the end of the season last year. And don't get me wrong, he is still a great center back, but he's getting older. And I think one of the things that we started to see last season at the end of the year was that his body started to, start to fall apart. And the last thing we want is to lose Johnny Evans at the start of the season. And this is nothing towards Kabak, and slotting Kabak, and you have, a very young center back core of three of Söyüncü, Fofana, and Kabak. My biggest concern is we've seen what happens when Fofana and Söyüncü play together, and Evans is not there. They look lost. Where I think we're a Tarkowski type player, hypothetically, if Evans were to go out with an injury, you slot Tarkowski in, I'm not concerned whatsoever. And I think ultimately that's where that comes down to between those two players in a hypothetical situation.
Yeah, I see what you guys are on about. Either way, I think the question is, if you look at the last season, if we have Tarkowski in that season, do we then lose that game and do we get top four? And I think you guys are right in that sense, and I think we can move it on to that next level. It's going to be just an eventual thing. But the issue is, I think in general, with the way that Leicester play, the Leicester work, is that we can't go for this massive £1 million signing. It's cheaper to get this younger player in and train him up rather than get a Premier League proven defender. Johnny Evans, as I think Rob Tanner was saying, was a one-off. And can we go and get that Premier League proven player? That's where we can change to like a top six. We could really attract them. We could, but I think with going out and buying Daka and buying Samori, I don't think the tanks are very open at the moment. So as I think Rob was saying as well, we can only really get a player on loan.
But then at the same time, we're looking to sell off players like Gazelle, but we're going to get a few million for, and shipping off some of the fringe players that aren't good enough. I think I know I keep beating the drum of Tarkowski, or it doesn't even need to be him. It's just more of the fact I think we need an experienced centre-back. That's the big thing, because I think our transfer strategy is absolutely brilliant of bringing in these young, hungry players that we bring on to the next level. But there's got to be that level of balance. And I think with Ryan Bertrand, that experience is obviously there. But obviously Wes Morgan's gone, Fuchs has gone. That has got to be replaced somehow. And by practically replacing Wes Morgan with Kabak is what we'll be doing if we brought in another centre back, and that's where I'm at with it, because I think they're both very capable centre backs, but I just think that, as I keep saying, Kabak's a good centre back, but not the centre back we need.
Yeah, I agree with you to a certain extent. Actually, coming on to one other person in Ryan Bertrand, obviously we signed just this week as well. He's experienced. He's kind of fitting a lot of the things you were saying, and Premier League experience, got loads of game time, old enough to, he knows he's not going to start every game, but he's going to try and get in there. Is he somebody you would play at a back three? So something that I wanted to kind of ask you as well, because yes, if you look at the game, for example, against Leeds, where we had a back three of James Justin, Wesley Fofana and Christian Fuchs, you take out, obviously James Justin is injured at the moment, but you get somebody like Christian Fuchs, so you get Ryan Bertrand in to kind of plant that position, then get somebody like Luke Thomas on the wing. Is that a position we could play as well if we were to go three at the back?
I think if you do it, you're only doing that because we don't have the quality in depth at centre back. Because it's like James Justin, he did well when he came in at centre back, but you don't want to take him away from left back or right back wherever he's playing. So I think that was again just Brendan Rodgers playing with the cards that he'd been dealt with the amount of injuries. He probably could do a job as a centre back in a back three, but it's not ideal. But you'll be if you were looking to do that for him.
Yeah, what do you think? Obviously on that, Ryan. Obviously a bit onto Bertrand, but could we kind of, if we need somebody in that department, do you think Bertrand could fit there as well?
Who's that to? Me?
Yeah, sorry.
Okay.
Did I say Austin? I don't...
No, you said Ryan.
Oh shit! Sorry.
Yeah. I think he's a person that can kind of play that Christian Fuchs role, and I think he's a little bit different of a player than Christian is. But I think he's what we needed in that experience. We've got so much youth out at left back right now, and with Justin coming off of a ACL, you just don't know how long they're going to return or how they're going to return. So to have that experience, and what if Evans does get hurt early this season and we don't have, and then we get Kabak, you still have that Premier League experienced guy in that back line to at least help out there. Maybe, I mean, he won't be the Evans type of guy, but he will help out that young back line.
Yeah, I definitely think so. And especially, I think he knows coming into the team that he won't be a big part player. But Alex, over to you. We've been talking about him for, God, I think it's looking about 6 months now, talking about Bertrand and coming in and all the situation. He finally signed. But what are your thoughts on him as well since he signed? And in the same kit as you're wearing at the moment. I know Mark put an awesome comment as well. I love how, you've got the newest kit out of all of us as well, which is awesome.
It's a great kit. So if you haven't bought one, I know everyone's kind of waiting out to see, the other two kits, but definitely recommend this one. Over to Ryan Bertrand, I think it's an excellent signing. It's on a free, so I can't complain. We didn't spend any money to get him. But ultimately, you're getting him for his veteran presence, his leadership, and, the quality that he can, within that, he's going to be a great teacher for like the likes of Luke Thomas and James Justin. Like that's ideal. He's won the Champions League. He knows how to play. And I think that's one thing that you got to look at. Ultimately he hasn't had, his last real good season out in Southampton was a few years back, So like ultimately when you're looking at this signing, it's more, in my eyes, I see it more as a, this is going to be a great player to mentor a lot of the younger players. And I think that's key. You need those types of players that know how to deal with the stress and whatnot, and really teach those young players on how to adapt in certain situations. And like, I think what everyone's been saying, if things happen and injuries occur, you have this veteran presence that you can slot in that you can rely on, and that's something that there's no concern, especially with Fuchs leaving. I think you needed to add that presence. And with Ryan Bertrand, I think that's an excellent, acquisition.
Yeah, and I think so too. And in terms of strength and depth, and we're getting there, and slowly. I mean, one of the graphics I've got up, I think from Man About Fox. Let me see if I can bring it up. The age of this squad at the moment is incredibly young. It's exciting, but it's incredibly young. I mean, it's a hell of a graphic. But for example, like this kind of team, you look at the likes of, I know Hamza Chowdhury might leave. We'll probably come on to that in just a second as well in terms of players that might leave. This age of the squad is just ridiculous. Thomas being 20, Kids and Dewsbury Hall being 22. We can come on to him a little bit later as well. But this squad is really young, and that's probably where I think you were saying about the experience comes in. That do we need another experienced player? Because this is just, I think, there's quite a few of them as it is. So you're looking at over 10 players just in the inexperience range, really, that are going to come into their prime. So just from that, this is where somebody like a Bertrand comes in.
Yeah, because you need that leadership and you need that balance. Like, it's the word that I keep using, balance. And I think our transfer strategy has been the best in the league over the last few years of bringing in these players. But just because I'll say experience and stuff, it doesn't mean you have to go out and spend like 40 million on a player. When you've got players like Johnny Evans coming in for 3 million, I know Rob Tanner said that's very much a one-off, which you've got to agree with him on that. But you look like Tarkowski, 20 million is the asking price. Vestergaard in a very similar situation to Tarkowski, out of contract at Southampton. They probably won't want to see him walk away for free. So it's just getting that balance. And I think that's something that Brendan Rodgers will be keen to do. He's talked about the mentality a lot and sort of bringing in those leaders in the dressing room. So it's something that he's definitely looking to address.
Yeah, definitely agree there. And we'll move on to one of the things that the comments have just been. Thanks for all your comments, guys. But there's been one big theme going on to and from. Daniel James, who has been linked for quite a while now, and it's from what we've seen, it's divided a lot of fans. Austin, what do you think? Because there's a lot of stuff, a lot of it over there. But what are your thoughts on Dan James? I'll try and bring this up as you're talking.
I mean, we're obviously still in the point where we're still trying to replace Mahrez. I think we're currently 0 for, I don't know, 4 at this point. But yeah, we've always been calling out for a player with pure pace that will just run at someone, and that's what Harvey Barnes was doing for us before he got hurt. And I think he's out of favor at United. I don't think he's in their future plans. I know we're looking for a loan, but I think they're going to sell him eventually. But a player with pure pace that will sit at the wing with Harvey Barnes, hopefully on the other side if he's healthy, and just have them just run at defenders, which will free up the likes of Vardy, free up the likes of Daka, free up the likes of Madison, and I think will overall help how we play. He is a bit inconsistent at times. He has shown that he's brilliant when he's on, but I think if we can get him obviously for a loan and maybe a right price for a buy option, then I would be totally all for that transfer.
Yeah, it will be obviously a loan at first, and I think the contract is just being sorted out at the moment. But what are your thoughts on him? Because obviously he is kind of a player that you would expect, just probably gone to a level that's too high, coming from the Championship with being one of the best starlets in the Championship, then going to Man United. But now Sancho's come in. He wants game time. He knows with the squad that we have, we will give it to him to a certain extent. But what do you think about the transfer?
I'm going to firmly sit on the fence and give both sides of this, but so I'm very much in the middle. So for me, there's before the Lingard loan to West Ham, if I saw us being linked to Dan James, an out of favour player at Man United who hasn't been great, I'll be saying absolutely no way. But when you have a look at what Lingard's done at West Ham, when you're taken away from the atmosphere at United and the intensity, because that is one thing that's absolutely huge at Man United, like the amount of pressure and stuff. Obviously, we've got pressure to an extent, but it's nothing like what a Man United player would have. I do think he could do half decent for us, but at the same time, like his best positions the left wing. We've already got Harvey Barnes on the left wing. He's been playing on the right wing at United because they refused to drop Rashford. So he's not really a natural right winger. And at the same time, I see a lot of similarities in what Dan James is to what Harvey Barnes was when he was just coming back from West Brom. A very raw player, huge pace, but then that technical side of his game with his finishing and his link-up play to his teammates isn't the best. So, this right wing position for us, this has been a problem since Mahrez has gone. And I almost feel like we don't need another project in terms of what Dan James would be, with the way that he would come in and it would take him a while to improve. I almost feel like we do need an established player there, because that right wing is becoming a bit of a cursed position since Mahrez has left. And I know I've mentioned about pressure, but there's not as much pressure on playing for Leicester as there is Man United. But coming in to play that right wing for us, that's a very difficult position to come and play, seeing how many players we've tried to bring in that are projects that could work, might work. And that's where Daniel James sort of falls, that he might be a good signing for us. I almost feel like we need to go out and get someone that's a little bit more established. And I know that goes a little bit against what our transfer policy's been, but with this right wing position, it's been such a difficult position to fill since Mahrez has left. But I almost think we need to go out and almost break our transfer policy just for this position.
Yeah, I see what you mean, but at the same time, I was like, Alex has a lot. I imagine, Alex, you've got a lot. I'll let you take away, mate, because it seems like you've got a lot to say about that.
Well, I honestly do think that, there are question marks surrounding Dan James. Like, that totally is understandable, but I really do believe that he'd be a great option for a winger. And I would definitely think that the right path in order to do so would be a loan with a possible buy option. I think that's fantastic. And I really, and I already know I'm going to get flack for this, but Leicester City fans need to stop, holding their breath and hoping that we're going to sign players like Berardi. It's not going to happen. If you want to donate both kidneys and donate to the cause, you might have enough to, give him a wage bill for maybe a day. So just stop talking about it. It's not going to happen. And I know I'm going to get chewed out for it. Same with the Coutinho rumors. Stop. Moving forward with Dan James, though.
Go watch our video on it with Rob Tanner. We cover that.
Yeah.
End of story. Done.
But well,
I was going to say, with Berardi's wage, it's not a problem. He's on 61,000 a week. It's more of a transfer fee.
It's a fee. That's what I was kind of going off of. Like, but going back to Dan James, I really do think it'd be a great loan to buy option. I think when you look at what's going on, at Man United, they're going to bring in Jadon Sancho. Like that's happening. All of a sudden, Daniel James is going to be pushed off, the pecking order. He's going farther down. Why not give him an opportunity here at Leicester? Time and time again, we've brought in these players, and I look at Under from last season. When the speculation came out, we were ecstatic. We were like, "This is our replacement. Watch out, Premier League. This is going to be insane." How did that turn out? Absolute flop. So, and everyone's talking
absolute, but 3 out of 10.
It was 2 maybe. 2 out of 10.
He did help in some of the goals. I think he only had 3 goals, a couple of assists and stuff.
Yeah, but still.
I know you mean.
The assist.
But you need to look at, I think we're so high on these players that, we can spend all this money to get them. But that's, we've spent money on Daka. We spent money on Sumare. In order to get these players that we are hypothetically talking about signing, we need to sell players. And right now, that's not happening. And the money that you're going to need to get for these signings of these hypotheticals, you're not going to need 15 million. You're going to need a lot more. So you're going to have to sell a few players in order to actually get that. So if you need to look at, when you look at Daniel James as an option, I think it's quality. You give him that chance to really prove himself as a winger. And I think, especially Rodgers. I think Rodgers would, Rodgers and Daniel James, I think that's a really perfect match. I think something about that, I think Rodgers would really be keen on, let's see what he can do and let's really test this. That's why I'm open to this. And I've gotten a lot of flack for actually supporting this on Twitter, but I really do think that it's something that we could look at. And if it does come to fruition, I'm going to stick my neck out that if it does happen, I think there's going to be a lot of City fans, biting their tongue by the end of the season.
I mean, he has performed when he's had a run in like the Wales team. He's looked like one of their starlet players, for example. Exactly. I think he will get there. I think one of the issues potentially is that now that we know that dealing with Man United is going to be hard after we sold their Maguire for 80 million. And what my thing is, I don't want to get a player on loan and him come in, do amazingly, just like Jesse Lingard, the situation there, and then go, oh, he's brilliant. Let's hand him back to Man United and strengthen, let's face it now, a top 6 rival. Yeah. So that's one thing that I'm thinking as well.
The other thing with doing that, because I've seen that obviously if we do buy him, you instantly back him, and that's as soon as a Leicester player comes in, you back them until they give you a reason not to. Well, that's what I do. But if he comes in and then he goes has a brilliant season and then goes back to Man United, all we've done is strengthen Man United, and we're still in the same position next year. So what we need to set an option to buy right at the start, like we did with Under. And if he does come in, just hope that he is better than Under.
Yeah, because again, we've had that situation before with Tielemans, Austin, where we've had the player, we're praying for him. Can we sign him? If we didn't sign him, then it's like a statement of intent. You know what I mean? So that's the kind of thing that we want to do, because normally Leicester don't buy players out and out. We will buy a player. We'll loan a player, then hand him back. We've done that too many times now. So I think to get on to the next level, it won't be. There's a certain group of player that will do that, like a Man United, a West Ham that will do that. I don't really want Leicester to be one of them clubs as well. Just from a truly that financial point of view. Mute, mate. You're on mute.
Especially where we're at, currently, we're in that top 6 conversation. We're not a club who should be doing that. I mean, at least when Tielemans came, we weren't exactly where we are now at the time, so that was a little bit different. But West Ham, they had a great season, and then they just lose pretty easily their best player last year. And I don't know how Lingard's going to fit at United right now. I think that's going to be interesting. But I think if United's smart, and I think it's going to be a little revenge with Maguire, they're going to put his buy option at a pretty steep price. So that way, if he does play well, they're going to force us into a transfer that we may not want to do.
Yeah, but that's the thing. I see what you mean, but again, I imagine that next season, if we go for, it's going to be like a 3-5-2 formation. Get the best out of Iheanacho, best out of Tielemans. That would, and with the number of midfielders and stuff we've got and strikers, it just makes sense. But going to potentially to a 4-3-3, I know people were mentioning in the comments about the formations earlier as well. Is there any other formation that you could see us setting up with next season that would really work for us, Anne? Because I've got a couple. I'll try and find the formations now, but there's just so much. There's just Brendan Rodgers wants a squad you can play multiple formations with, which we did last season. But I think with the players we've got, it's kind of leading towards like a 3 at the back formation, surely.
It is unless you. But then I think we only switched to the 3 at the back because of Harvey Barnes getting injured. So if you bring Dan James in, then he's going to be coming in with the promise of game time because that's the only reason he'll be leaving United. So then I think then if we get Dan James or whoever the right winger maybe on the right hand side, I think then you've got to play something like a 4-2-3-1, which is where we were playing a lot of our good football before we got hit so heavily by injury. Because I think you get the best out of Tielemans in that formation with him sitting alongside Ndidi. Then you can play Maddison in the number 10. And then also, but the only thing is then we give ourselves a bit of a good headache, don't get me wrong, a headache at striker who starts because we've got 3 very good options now.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. I definitely think so as well. Austin, over to you. What kind of formation do you think we'll see next year? Because, again, Brendan Rodgers likes to play a few. We saw, as Ant was saying as well.
I mean, it's so hard because no matter what you do, you're going to have a player who probably is deserving to start on the bench, which is a good thing because then you can bring him off the bench and we can change it. But I mean, I would love to see a 4-3-3, but I just feel like we're going to go back to what we did at the end of last season, which was a 3-5-2. And with Harvey Barnes, I don't know what we're going to do because you kind of don't want to start him, but then start him in a position he's not really used to, and you're not going to take out Iheanacho after the end of last season. I mean, it's just a headache that. Luckily, I'm not making that decision. And like Ant said, it's a good headache to have, but that's just what I see.
Yeah, it definitely could be the case. So just over to you, Alex, on formations again, because it's something we'll probably see a lot more in pre-season. Obviously a week away now. Brendan Rodgers changed up a few of the times. He's played a 4-4-2 diamond. He's played all sorts of 3 at the back, like all sorts of different formations. To get the best out of this squad, now we've got the problem where we've got an amazing squad, but we can't get everybody into team. I mean, the back two is the goalkeeper position is a great example just on its own. So even no matter what formation we play, the fact that we've got 2 of them that really compete for that first spot. But what can you see as setting up next season?
Honestly, I could totally see Rodgers changing up formation throughout the season, like game by game basis. You know, I think with the acquisitions and the signings this summer, I think has really allowed him to utilize whatever formation he's going to want, you know, and maybe specify it against certain clubs. And I think that's something that he's really wanted to do last season, but with injuries and lack of players, you know, quality players off the bench, I think what he's been able to do this offseason has been huge. So I can't really guarantee, like, say which formation will be the most, you know, ideal, because I really do think that Rodgers is going to really utilize the fact that he has so many talented players now, you know, on the bench and, you know, throughout the squad that, you know, I think that formation, it could possibly change, as I said, with each game. I think that's one thing that could be very exciting to watch. You know, we don't know what we might get. And that's the one thing that a lot of clubs are going to notice too. They don't know what formation they're going to see with Leicester this year.
No, and that's very interesting. I definitely already agree on that. But anyway, we'll move on to some of the players that are just outside some of the top 4 as well. Obviously, they've come back to training this week. Some of the big players, some of the big names from the Euros obviously are missing, apart from Soyuncu. I think he's the only player from the Euros that is currently in the training at the moment. And one player as well that says love from Leicester from Thailand as well. But what do you think of Thanawat? I mean, that could be an option maybe, but I can't see him featuring much for the first team and at the moment. But just on that kind of Thanawat, but also other players that potentially could break into this team, because to be fair, looking at some of the players that are training and some of the quality that's training, there's quite a few knocking on the door for the Leicester squad going, look, if these players aren't going to turn up, I'm going to come here and I'm going to show you what I'm made of and potentially get into the team as well.
Yeah, there's been a couple, like Dewsbury Hall's the obvious name. Obviously, did very well in the Championship at Luton last year. He's come back, and I don't know if you've seen the video of him doing the bleep test. Like, all of the other players looked absolutely knackered, and he was doing a sprint at the end of the bleep test. So he's obviously a very fit player as well, like naturally fit, because that's the start of pre-season, or he's just been working incredibly hard since he finished at Luton. But obviously, he's also a very good footballer. So I'm hoping we see a bit of him throughout this season. And then I forget the lad's name, but was out at Belgium.
Soa,
that's it. He could potentially be on the door, but it's again, he was playing in Belgium. He didn't do badly, but he didn't light up the league, so to speak. So it may be too much of a jump. He may be sent out on loan, maybe to a Championship club, but the fact that we've got these options of players that potentially we could either have a squad depth and try and bolster up our squad that way with a lot of the younger lads, or we could send them out on loan and get a loan fee for them.
Yeah, I think that might be an option as well. And we're sending them to certain players. Austin, over to you as well. Obviously, there's been a few players that have come back, a few players that are going to come and try and get into the first team. Is there any that you want to mention?
I would love to see Tavares, but it kind of seems like he's out the door. You got Lechabella and Maswanhise. I mean, they're both young. I mean, they would be interesting to see. George Hurst.
I think he's on loan this season to Luton. Sorry to interrupt, but I think he's gone for the season.
Yeah. You also got Vontae Daly Campbell, who featured a little bit for us last year. I think he can play center back and full back. So Ben Nelson won Academy Player of the Season last year. There's so many players that you can say it would be very interesting to see them in the first team squad. But I think the one that everyone's ready to watch is Dewsbury Hall. I mean, he's kind of the main man at this point.
He is, and especially with Tielemans, probably he's knackered. He's obviously from the Euros, you could tell that he wasn't his pure self. But I think part of that is just tiredness. So I think now going forward, Alex, is KDH or is there anybody else? Because KDH for me has come back. He looks hungry. He looks ready to go. And with Tielemans out of that squad, he knows this is his position to really pick up now.
Yeah, I think KDH, Dewsbury Hall is going to be the one that all the eyes are going to be on, and I think that's already become that kind of a thing right now. I think one of the biggest things that we talked about last season was, you got Tielemans who was just running to the ground, just exhausted. And when you get these players like Samari you bring in, Dewsbury Hall is hungry and he wants to, showcase his talents and get into the first team, and I think that's pivotal, and especially. I think you're really going to see him, make some noise in preseason. And I'm feeling fairly confident that you're going to see him probably start the season on the bench. But ultimately, I do think that he's going to, cause a lot of chaos, when he comes on as a sub, for other clubs around the league. I'm really interested to see how Dilly Campbell does this preseason. We did see him feature a little bit last season, but there's something about him that I just feel like, there's this untapped potential that I feel like we're missing. And I don't know why, but I feel like he's going to be that player this year. And that's nothing, Dewsbury Hall is going to be fantastic, but I think that Dilly Campbell is going to be that one player that really just, exceeds everyone's expectations, and that's whether he stays here at the club or if he goes out on loan. I think he's going to do some stuff this season that's really going to help progress his, his potential and in his spot within the squad, probably in the 22-23 season.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree there. The thing is, we've got a load of players and they're just on the fringe, but the problem is as well, and Leicester are leveling up. And the problem is that you're looking at the likes of like Abram Musque, for example, who left just to Luton on a permanent transfer. And Leicester have just increased in such a way that these players, like even Darnell Johnson, who's been in the squad for so many years from Leicester, just can't catch up to them levels. And we're having to massively invest, not having to, but in a good way, massively invest in new talent that is coming to the squad. But at the same time, yeah, is this something? Because there's that point as well. But also, do you think a lot of them will get much of a run up in Europe as well? Because I'm thinking that last year, one of the reasons why we burnt out so much is that the games were so quick and coming quick and fast. And B, Europe, we didn't really need to play as many good players as we did, especially in the knockout stages. Maybe that could be an opportunity for them.
No, it's one of those. Because obviously in the group stage, we probably went stronger than we needed to in a few games. But there'll be opportunities to play, like for them to get some football this year. But at the same time, I do think a loan for Daily Campbell is more beneficial to go play week in, week out at a championship club or something like that than getting 4 or 5 games in the Carabao Cup and Europa League. So I still think that's sort of a more beneficial route. But like the harsh reality of the way that we're going with academy football is not all of them will make it, and some of them won't be good enough, and that's the harsh reality of it.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I definitely agree with that, and also the academy football, but also the quality that we are going towards as well. Austin, over to you, mate. What are your thoughts on that? As obviously with Europe as well, because what do you think? Do you think we'll have a go at more of it this year? Because obviously Brendan Rodgers got this repetition now, and as much as I love him, of bottling that kind of the knockout stages, unfortunately. So do you think he'll want to have a go at that this season?
Yeah, I think we kind of have to. I think last year we were kind of worried about how we would play and with all the new games, but buying some more depth at striker and at center mid and in defense, like you kind of feel like we're kind of ramping up for the knockout stages and then also the end of the season. And I think kind of going out the way we did was very disappointing. And so I think we have to. I mean, this has to be a year where we get at least past the round of 32, maybe into the quarters. Maybe we have that crazy Champions League run, which may never happen again. But with the team that we have now, that I think most people would say is a better team than the one that went in the quarterfinals of the Champions League, this team should be competing against way better teams than Slavia Prague.
Yeah, and we should be able to beat, if we can beat Premier League teams, and you're right, that's the case. And Diaganti put there as well, the rotation for this squad will be key, and we're going to see that just with the amount of signings we've got. We won't have to worry heavily about exhausting our players. Everybody will prove themselves in every training, every chance to get. And that's the thing, isn't it? They know that they've got the manager that will play them, Alex, and that will give them a chance. But in Europe, do you think that's where we will see some of these players shine? The likes like Soa, for example, coming from the Belgian league football, that could be his next step, because we could use that as kind of training. Are you good enough for Premier League? Let's play against a weaker team in Europe.
I think that's what you're seeing in the squad depth now. You know, I think you look at last season and we didn't have the squad depth that we wanted. I think that's one of the big things. Also, second, you know, last season was so there's so many games and so little time. And I think that was another issue that we saw last season. It was so condensed. So you had a bunch of players that were playing way too many games, you know, within a span of like a week or 2 weeks. The injuries were mounting, and that's for every single club. So now you're looking at this season, you know, the schedule is a little bit more spread out, which is great. And then you also have to look at the squad. You know, the squad depth has completely changed with the addition of Daka, Sumare, and Bertrand. That's huge. And, you know, you're probably going to see 1 or 2 more players come in before the end of the window. You know, so ultimately, I really do see, you know, Rodgers look at his squad and say, you know, I'm going to give X player and Y player these opportunities to play in Europe because, you know, I want to rest so-and-so for the Premier League game, you know, either, you know, on Sunday, you know, so you guys are going to play, you know, against whatever team we play in the Europa League. And I think that's going to be pivotal, you know. And I also look at, you know, I really do think that, you know, Danny Ward has to play in cup games and in the Europa League games, because if he doesn't play this season, I can guarantee there's going to be transfer talk come January, and he's going to want to leave because he's too good of a goaltender to just sit on the bench. He's just too good. And that's the one I really hope to see happen, because if not, we're going to lose a great keeper probably in the January window. And if not January, it will be next summer.
Yeah, potentially. But how bear in mind, this summer he signed new contract as well. So 1 year after the contract, it's going to be a lot of money. And he obviously knew what he was doing when he signed the contract at the end of the day. If he wanted to go for free, then he probably would have done that. Anyway, thank you for tuning in. It's been a bit longer than usual, but hopefully you've enjoyed this kind of format. Make sure you like and subscribe. We've got some good stuff coming now that I'm better. Will be some good content coming over the next couple of weeks. So make sure you stay tuned. Make sure to check out everybody's Twitter, link in the description down below. Check out Ant's channel as well. Some more awesome content over there. And we'll see everybody in the next video. So goodbye.
Oh, wait, don't finish. Doug's just donated.
I just saw. Hi, Doug. Yeah, thanks for that, mate. Hi, guys. Can't believe the community sales in the 3 weeks. How are you feeling much better? Thank you. Yeah, we're coming from Corona now. That's all be exciting to watch. We're hoping so. Just your thoughts on these comments. We'll hand over to you first, Austin.
Yeah, it's been good to see all the people here, but yeah, I'm with Doug. I'm ready for the season to start. I'm ready for the Community Shield. I'm ready for hopefully Pat Wembley. I just want Leicester City football back, because as much as I love international football, sometimes it's not as good as club.
Yeah, it really is. And big shout out to Doug. That's our first ever donation we've had to this channel. So really, really appreciate that, mate. You didn't have to, but no, we really, really appreciate that. And over to you, your thoughts on this.
Yeah, cheers, Doug, for the fiver. But yeah, I think with break and with pre-season, we'll have done a lot of players like Pereira, Barnes, Justin, and a lot of players that were injured towards the back of last season. Good, get a full pre-season under their belt, get back up to fitness. But I can't wait. I think we play Bertrand next Saturday. I'll just let the season start.
Yeah, just get the season started. Do you mirror similar things to that, Alex?
I'm so excited. The Euros is one thing, and I don't mind watching that, but there's something completely different about club football. I miss it. I can't wait. Me and Austin were talking about hockey stuff before, and I am a huge hockey fan, but I cannot wait for the Premier League to kick off, and I cannot wait to watch the Community Shield game. It's going to be wild. Hopefully my wife lets me watch it as we are moving, so it should be interesting. But I can't wait. This season is going to be one for the history books, in my opinion. So I can't wait.
Do you know what? Yeah, last season I wasn't as excited. This season I feel like it's going to be a special season as well, especially with some of the players we're bringing in. But anyway, if you guys enjoy this video, make sure to hit like, subscribe, stay tuned to our channel, make sure you hit notifications on all that good stuff, and we'll see everybody in the next video for real this time. So goodbye.